My name is Ray Kimball. I run a small company called 42 Educational Games Coaching and Design that does educational games coaching for higher ed faculty and corporate, and very interested in the content of this game and potentially recommending it to clients. So thanks, Leslie.
Very exciting. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'll go next. I'll temporarily turn my camera back on. So I'm Sarah Le-Fevre. A few of you already know me. So I'm the editor of Ludogogy magazine, and I organise these about 2 of these sort of sessions every month, hopefully, to introduce people to new games that they might not have come across before, or run play tests, or even ideation sessions. So if anybody wants to run their own session, just get in touch. Leslie, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself more at length later, but thank you very much for this opportunity, Sarah. It's really, really exciting. I'm going to introduce myself when I do my presentation as part of that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. So my name is Cynthia Childs, and I actually found you on LinkedIn, Sarah, and I thought this seems really interesting. I do work for a major utility, and I'm always trying to do games and different things to engage employees. So I thought this would be fun. So
super
exciting. Thank you, Cynthia. Hey, Norhan.
Hi, I can go next.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm Norhan Zahran. I'm an instruction and gamification designer, currently working as a freelance. And I'm really interested in the topic of the play test today.
Thank you very much. Where are you?
Originally, I'm from Egypt, but I'm currently in an exchange semester for my master's in Berlin.
Oh, wow. I need to get to both of those places one day.
Yeah, and I know.
Just tell me when you go. I will help you.
Norhan's written an article for Ludogogy if you want to have a look in there.
I'd love to.
Time ago, didn't you, Norhan?
Yeah, I'll be giving out my contact information in a bit, so I'd love to hear from everybody. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself? I think she's, yeah, there she is.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm a law graduate. I just was really interested in the topic when I saw this event on Eventbrite. Just kind of came across as a happy incident, and yeah, it just seems like a interesting session. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, thank you. And last but not least, Laxman, will you introduce yourself to us?
Sure, thank you. So I'm Lakshman. I'm calling in from India. I'm a Lego Serious Play facilitator, and I've worked with a lot of Lego Serious Play workshop in this topic area. And I do have an idea which is like halfway through. I could not spend more time of a board game again with regards to diversity inclusion, but I need to go back and revive that project and work on it further. That's it about me for now.
For now. Well, thank you. Feel free to tell us more later if you want to. So I guess I'll get started. So before I made this a virtual game, we're going to play the virtual game today. This is the board game. I created it about 10 years ago. It's about 4 pounds, got a lot of stuff in it. And it's used in over 1,000 colleges, hundreds of high schools, boys and girls clubs, organizations. And I created it really, there's so much diversity and inclusion. There was not when I created it, but there is now. And as we all know, usually it divides people more than brings them together, unfortunately. And what the Keep It Real game that we're going to play in a few minutes does is it really helps people to create a space to care about each other, to get personal, deeply personal with each other, speak to their comfort level, understand themselves much better at the same time as understanding the people they're playing with better. So it really just very gently and intentionally, but not directly, breaks down walls, and people feel incredibly close to each other. So like on the college campuses, there's friendships across all these divides now. People become very close to each other. They form friendships, whereas maybe they thought, well, this person looks like this. I I can't be friends with them, or it's too scary, or it's too, you know, and the game just really helps to dissolve those things because we all go into our humanity with each other. There is an inclusion category of 120 questions that do directly address race, religion, sexuality, but all the other categories, 7 of them, are just personal reflection about life, about fun stuff. There's group activities. There's a lot of laughter. So although very important conversations happen, it's also a lot of fun. So that's my basic introduction. And I do workshops where I do exercises that are more intentional than the game to frame it. But for the purposes of today, we're just going to be playing the game. So is everybody ready? Okay. So I'm just going to show a very quick PowerPoint, and then we're going to get right into the game. So where's the beginning? Okay. So it's a place also where we can all like feel really calm, because when you share what's going on inside with other people, it just has this biologically calming effect. This is just about me. I'm a therapist. I have been for a social worker and therapist for 40 years. And I created my company after spending 35 years working in homeless shelters, runaway shelters for youth, residences for homeless young adults, Department of Defense reintegration specialist for 2 years, drawn down from Afghanistan, just all kinds of situations, and my own intensive therapy because of a traumatic childhood. And it always amazed me that there were no tools where people could get really close to each other and have the conversations with people in their own lives that they were having in therapy sessions, and let people know what they're struggling with, as well as to get much closer. So that's why I developed my company, and I now have 7 games at market and many more developed. And I will show you, I have a free site I'm going to show you at the end of 10 free mini online games. There's addictions, there's prison reentry, there's all kind of stuff for free. So the problem that we're facing right now is businesses today have so many crises and stresses. We've got the financial fallout of the pandemic, the disruptive shift to remote work, people are feeling more isolated, issues of racial justice that seem to be dividing people more than ever, violence in the world, disruption. So there's a whole lot of stresses. And what I call my solution, not a solution. Right now we need more solutions, which will help people come together in our souls rather than just in our, you know, it's enough of just all this mind stuff that divides people. So, you know, leaders now know they have to attend much more to the emotional climate of their organizations than ever before. You used to just go to work, however you were treated, just eat it. You know, people aren't standing for that anymore, the Great Resignation. With all that, this game also helps us to have really deeply empathetic, engaged, and compassionate conversations, which is like super important at this time in history, for reasons that we all know. At any time, you guys feel free. I'm have everyone unmuted. At any time anybody wants to say anything, please just speak up. So this is the board game. These are all the different categories. And I prefer the board game, but in these times where so many people remote, I made the virtual version that we're going to play, which is an exact replica, although you don't get to choose which category you want. So here's just a testimonial. So I want to let you know we will be having very intimate personal conversations. So this testimonial speaks to that. You know, people are like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, I've never been vulnerable with the people in my workplace. So she didn't know. And what happened was, to her, magical, that people really went there, and as they always do. And so there's laughter, there's reflection, there's actually love starts happening within playing the game. And within that, then you can have these collaboration that you need to face really challenging issues. When people don't like each other, that's almost impossible to do. So it really brings us into our common humanity. So are we ready? Okay. So the first thing you need to do is set some ground rules. Confidentiality. Can we all agree that what says here will stay here because people will be speaking personally? Does everybody agree to that? Okay, beautiful. And then respect, because if you're going to shut down if you don't feel respected, which is exactly the opposite. We want to have it happen, everybody be actively engaged. Everybody answers the same question around the circle, so everybody gets to speak their truth. So there's no argument, there's support and discussion, but we agree to disagree. Be aware of one another. Some people, lose awareness when they really get into what they're saying. And, it's important to be aware of time speaking so everybody will get their turn. Okay, and then very importantly, speak to your comfort level. Say as much or as little as you're comfortable with the group you're with. If you're with people you're really close to, you're going to speak more. But, if you don't feel comfortable with whatever group you're with, just speak to your comfort level. You don't want to answer a question, pass, and enjoy yourself. Super, super important. Okay, so we are now going to go to the game. And there's a free 1-week trial for this, so I'm going to put the link in the chat later. Okay, so the rules are here, just so you know when you go to it, and all the things that we talked about are all there. And then we're going to play. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna just put everybody's name.
Is everybody happy to play, or do some people just want to watch? To check before Leslie decides who's in.
I'm happy to play as long as me dropping in about 15 minutes won't disrupt anything.
Okay, great.
I'm
happy
good
to play too.
Oops. So this is how, if you're facilitating it and one person has to facilitate it, this is how you would do it. Okay. Whoops. Okay, got everybody, yeah?
Cool.
Okay, and it's best for up to 7 people because everybody's answering the same question. You don't want to have to wait too long for your turn. So, Ray, you're up first. You ready? So you roll the dice. The red dice tells you how many to move. It's the same rules as the board game. So your piece is going to move, and you landed on the inclusion. And then you roll the yellow die, and there's 6 questions on a card, and that will tell you the number question. So since it's your turn, you're going to read the question out loud. You're going to answer first, and then everybody will answer the same question around the circle.
Interesting. Okay, so on question 3, how would your life be different if you did not have your faith? My faith has given me the basis to go forward during some really difficult times when it wasn't clear to me that I had a sustainable way forward, and that I wasn't sure that I could bear some of the burdens that I was being asked to bear. And my faith was a mechanism for me to have confidence that there was a bigger plan and somebody looking out for me, even if I couldn't quite see it at the time.
Wow, I love that. That's interesting. And then we all answer. I'll speak last. So, whoever just feels like speaking. Usually if you're sitting in a circle with a board game, everybody answers in the circle. If you're facilitating, you can do it however you want it. I'm facilitating now, so I'll say whoever wants to speak next, speak next.
Okay, I'll go next, Sarah. So I don't have a religious faith. I'm an atheist, definitely, very much so. But I do have faith in the people around me. I have faith in my family. And if I didn't have that, I think I would find it very, very hard to cope with some of the challenges, particularly that I've faced this year. So my father died back in November, and I've had some sort of health challenges myself since then. They've all resolved themselves, but it was all very, very scary. And there were times when, if I hadn't had my family around me at that point, I may just have given up, I think, because it was all very overwhelming, extremely overwhelming. And I think that's what my faith in my family does for me. It stops me from getting overwhelmed.
That's wonderful that you have that. Really. Thank you very much for sharing that, Sarah. I hope you stay healthy. And anybody can feel, can speak in to anything anybody says as well.
I'll jump in. Definitely, faith has helped me achieve my goals and believe in myself that I'm capable to do a lot of things. So if I didn't have that, I don't know if I would, keep trying to grow, keep trying to challenge myself or advance at my job. If it wasn't for, having that faith in myself that I could do things.
I agree.
I can go next.
Sure.
Okay, let's say that now I'm in a tough spot in my life where I do have to take lots of decisions, and it's been hard the first time living alone for a long period. So I think my faith is the only thing keeping me grounded, and I'm really trying to get connected more so that spirituality wise, so that I can continue working on my master's, and I can continue living on my own till it's time to go back home, or maybe stay here. I don't know yet, but I think it's the only thing that is keeping me going now.
Wow. Wow. Well, I wish you all the best and for faith to stay strong.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Laxman, do you want to speak or you want me to go?
I can speak on it. For me, I don't think life would have been different because for me, faith is more about human life and the nature of living. Irrespective of anything else, if we are human beings, if there are living beings around, for me, it's the same, irrespective of if I did not had the faith or not. That is not in my control. That is something God or nature created, and we are part of it. We are a small part in this bigger living entity and the planet.
That's very interesting perspective. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's a very different usually when we are struggling, as we all clearly have our struggles, right? It's so big, and it's interesting to think that it's just part of that humanity. I haven't really heard it put that way. Yeah, if I didn't have my faith, I don't know. I'm not religious, but I definitely believe there's some higher power. There's some meaning to everything somehow. And I know that people who don't have that fall into very, very deep depression. People who don't have that sense that there is meaning to life. So I definitely lean a lot on my faith to keep me going with my work and in my life. Yeah. Thank you all so much for sharing. We'll go on to the next. Does anybody have anything else they want to say on this? Okay. So next is, now there's one other thing. Everybody is starting with 10 gold coins. I forgot to say this. And in the board game, everybody's throwing coins at each other. It's really fun. But here you like somebody can say, okay, I want to give some coins to this person. I really, really liked their share. So say I was to give Ray 2 coins, he would now have, I would tell the facilitator, I want to give Ray this number of coins, or I want to give, whoever else this number of coins. And whoever gets to the big keep it real in the middle with the most coins is the winner. So it's super fun with especially people are vulnerable with the board game and everybody's throwing coins at them. And it, like if Norhan, you had shared, that you're having a hard time, people were all throwing coins at you. It's very strengthening. It's not as much fun in the virtual game, but you can still, it's still an element. Okay, so now it's Anna's turn, and you're inclusion again, you guys. Very interesting. Hopefully we'll get to some of the other stuff. Okay, you up. Anna, you'll read it out loud and then you'll answer first.
Do you feel uncomfortable around people that look different, ex-burn victims, facial and other physical deformities? I'm not sure how to interpret the word uncomfortable. I can't help but feeling bad for them. So
Yeah.
I definitely do not feel normal in the sense that I wouldn't feel the same way as I would with a person who doesn't have a physical defects, because it's subjectively it's a very special kind of hardship that you just sort of instantly become aware that this person is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But like in spite of how I felt, my way of behaving would be to just treat them as any other person, because it would be cruel to kind of treat them differently just because they have a defect, because they just want to be part of community like any other person. So so I think it's just one of those cases where you have to take kind of mental selfie of yourself, I guess, and think, okay, I have to pay attention that I don't behave weird and make them feel bad.
I love that share. Thank you. That made me actually more sensitive to this. Thank you.
Yeah, Ray here. I think similar to Anna's point, I think I get a little uncomfortable and then I become self-conscious about whether or not I am, visibly telegraphing discomfort in a way that is making them feel bad or making them feel excluded. So I almost immediately then start becoming self-critical about, oh, okay, how am I presenting myself? And that in and of itself can really go down a bad road.
Yeah, it's interesting how little we talk about this kind of thing, right? And the discomfort it brings up. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll add, I don't feel uncomfortable, but I think sometimes I overcompensate. Like if I know something like a disabled person or something like that's obvious or visible, I'll try to be super nice or super over the top sometimes as the opposite. Instead of being uncomfortable, I try to be way too accommodating. And I've had them be like, I am capable, please. Like, something was like that situation before.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that, right?
I think that's really, really interesting, because I think a lot of the times there's this kind of this balance between trying to be kind and nice, and not overdoing it so that people feel like you're patronizing them. And there's always that, and that's the thing that makes me uncomfortable. Am I doing, it sounds ridiculous, but that whole thing about, am I doing too much? And by doing that, drawing attention to the fact that this person is different, and maybe that's making them feel bad. And it's just a horrible kind of balancing act. But all of it goes away once you know a person. That's the thing. And I actually have that awkwardness with new people that I meet anyway, regardless of anything. It's just a bit amplified when you're not quite sure how to behave.
And that other person knows, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Every second it's with them, right? That people are having to go through changes around how they're behaving. It's really difficult.
Mm.
Laxman, do you want to speak on this?
Sure. I don't think I have an answer for it. I don't know how it would be, because I've not been in such a circumstance up till now. And the more I look at the question, what I'm more deeply looking is not if I meet somebody who's in this particular situation, and if I'm just spending short period of time with them, maybe I may not be uncomfortable. But what if I were to work with them or live with them or spend a longer period of time, I don't know how I'll react. And the thought of being or spending longer with them, either they could be clients or they could be colleagues or they could be peers or they could be family members or friends, we never know. It's a journey that would take, and how it would begin, where it would end, I don't know. I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not something we usually talk about, and so many people do deal with
Yeah.
physical deformities and disabilities. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Norhan, do you want to say something about it?
I think I relate to what the others said earlier about overdoing and being more self-conscious. Because I just always question myself around people who look different. Because as they said, I don't want to make them feel bad or something, and at the same time, I want them to feel more included and being part of what we're doing, and that they are accepted. So it's so chaotic in my mind being put in those situations.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think I've not actually never had this kind of conversation before, and this question hasn't come up all the times that I've played. Yeah, I think somehow, thank you guys. I think having had this conversation with you, I'll feel more comfortable next time. I'm in New York City, so obviously, you do come across people with all kinds of things all the time, and yeah.
I had this colleague who I used to work quite closely with, who was born with spina bifida, and as a result of that, he'd had both his legs amputated, and obviously he was in a wheelchair. And I was introduced to him quite early on when I started the job, so I got to know him quite quickly. So that awkwardness kind of went away. But one of the things, or I guess it was a kind of coping mechanism for him as well, for sort of when he did meet people and that maybe people would be looking at him differently, is that he constantly used to take the piss out of his own sort of disability. And there was one occasion, which was, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it was hysterical at the time. So me, a completely able-bodied person, had an incident at work where I leant forward to take an eyelash out of my eye in the bathroom, and my back went into spasm. And the only person that was available to take me to the doctor was this guy, Colin. So we had to go in his car, and obviously he's got an adapted car. And I couldn't move at all because my back was totally in spasm. And he ended up having to help me to get into my own house up a step, which he actually managed from his wheelchair. But it was just, and then from then on, he just started calling me a cripple, which was just like really, really funny. But it was the way he used to talk about things like that to kind of diffuse, I guess, that awkwardness that people would have.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and the awkwardness is even probably, matches the pain of whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much for sharing this conversation. Does anybody else have something they want to add to this question? Okay, so we'll move on. And now it's my turn. Let's see what I land on. Okay, these are reflection. This is a serious category too. Some of the categories are really fun, some are really deep. So this is a deeper category, and these are questions that we have to, really reflect on. So number 2, what is the most difficult thing about confrontations? Confrontations, I can enter into them if I need to, but I don't like them. It puts me through a lot of changes. I have a hard time figuring out and thinking clearly about the situation. What do I bring to it? How is the other person at fault, or who is this person? What are the dynamics? And I really try to think it through, but my emotions get so triggered that I have a hard time, thinking clearly, especially in the moment. I need time. So the most difficult thing for me is to think clearly.
Can I go next?
Yes.
Okay. I believe it depends on the person that I'm having this situation with. If it's something that if it's something at work, I will be very logical, and it wouldn't be difficult at all. It would just be like a conversation, and we're just walking our way through it to get to like a common ground. But if it's someone that I'm emotionally connected to, or I feel like I'm disappointed, I just start yelling and maybe crying, and it's so chaotic. So it's more difficult if that person means something to me.
Yeah, the emotions, right?
Yeah.
And what can be the consequences of this confrontation. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll add the most difficult thing is trying to avoid them, not have them. Like I'm trying my best to not have a confrontation and diffuse the situation before it gets to that. So yeah, I've had that situation where, let's calm down. It's not that serious. So, let's take a deep breather before we have this conversation, especially at work.
Yes. People are really on edge at work these days, right?
Yeah, or they're just so passionate about their opinions, so it's hard for anybody else to get one in sometimes.
Yeah, well, maybe you need to write it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Speaking, right?
Right.
I'm out of the game, right?
I actually went to a training one time, and they told you it was like how to diffuse these kind of things. And it was like, okay, as a third party, I don't want you to miss out on what this person's trying to say. So you've said your piece, let this person talk to you, because I don't want you to miss out on what they have to say too. Like try to be like the mediator between these kind of confrontations. I've had that kind of training before, but yeah, hardest part is avoiding them.
I agree. And staying calm, yeah. Thank you.
For me,
Okay,
oh, carry on, Lakshman.
go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. For me, the most difficult thing about confrontations is not escalating them. I have ADD, and there's two things that go along with that, which make confrontations very difficult. First of all, I have very low impulse control, which means that I do tend to get into confrontations. And secondly, something which is a comorbidity quite often with ADD is RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, which means that you really take things to heart, especially negative things, and they stay with you for a very, very long time. So, I mean, years in some cases. So those are the two things that I found most difficult about confrontations, and there's no real explaining them away, even though I know that that's a thing and I know it has a psychological explanation. It doesn't stop it having the same emotional impact. So that's the two things that are most difficult for me about confrontations.
Yeah, thank you for that. I never heard of that before, and that's so interesting. I guess especially if they don't get resolved, right? They stay with you. If they don't get resolved, it just sits with you, really, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Laxman, you had wanted to share?
For me, what I find difficult in confrontations is not that moment, but the decisions or judgments that are made in that moment. They last longer, and they eventually form baggages or form a big part of the ego, and it's difficult to get rid of them or erase them off.
Right. That's so true. And then all you are is that confrontation. That's who you become.
It can deteriorate the complete shape of who we are or who we think the other person is, and by the time we realize it's a very, very long term, there's no u-turn to it.
And grudges and everything else that come with that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, thank you for that. Anna?
I think that it's many things, but I think the most difficult is that people often tend to not play clean or play fair during them, and in the ugliest of cases, it escalates to name calling and such, if
Yeah.
not physical violence. But even just this manipulative kind of like line of reasoning that can be employed to just make the other person feel bad instead of addressing the issue and kind of, litigating it fairly and remembering to have like some sort of due process during the confrontation. And many people would not want to do that just because they don't mind playing dirty to win an argument.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't need to get political, but we see that happening with our, in the States anyway, with our government, right? Yeah, thank you very much for that. Does anybody want to add to that? Okay. So let's see if we can get some of the other categories. Okay, so now we have interaction category. And I didn't see whose turn is it now? I didn't see the name.
I think it's me next, isn't it? Oh, hang on.
I think it was
Oh,
me.
it might be Lakshman. I don't mind.
Laxman, these are interactions, the rainbow. And so you choose one or the other that we're all going to do together as a group. So these are usually fun. In the board game, there's a lot of physical ones where you're running around the room and all kind of stuff. I took those out. For this, obviously, you can't do that online. So so these are more just to have fun together. So Laxman, your job right now is to choose which of these you wanted us all to do together.
Do you want me to select the first option or second option, or within the first option, the very examples that I've written, I need to select one of those?
I'm not sure I heard your full question. You choose one or number one or number two. And if you choose number one, then choose a category. And it can be one of these that are here or just any that you make up. And then each of us needs to quickly name something in that category. So like if you chose movies, we'd add a name of a movie. Yeah.
I'll go for second, invention.
Okay.
And for me, I would bring something that we're already doing. I would say the invention would be a game.
Okay, so the invention would be a game?
A game, yeah.
Okay, so each of us are going to add an element to this invention.
Okay, I'll add it's going to be a virtual game.
Okay.
I'm going to add that as it's going to save the world, that the power supply for this virtual game is actually pulls down carbon from the atmosphere.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Sarah defined it. We've got a eco. Yeah, this is save the world, the planet, right?
Yep. So it's powered by carbon pulled down from the atmosphere.
Okay, so somehow since I'm going to add my piece, since the heart is much more powerful than the mind, I don't remember the exact statistics. Somehow the heart will power this as well. Anybody have any other elements to add? The color it might be, colors, shapes.
It will be moderated by artificial intelligence.
Oh. Yeah.
You'll have to add that element, Anna.
Maybe the goal of the game would be to make the governments of different countries work together.
To
Yeah.
save the planet, right? So we all that's that, and then everything else that would come under that, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, if you want to bring everyone together, one of the main mechanics of the game will be the same mechanic that was behind 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. So it will show everybody how they're connected to each other.
I love that. They play it. Yeah, we'd have to get them to play it. They'd have to play it. I like this invention. Is anybody else? It's just called game. You have to name the invention, Laxman. Now that we know what's in it, maybe we can name it now.
Okay. I'm bad at names, so I'd say.
Do we all help? I didn't hear what.
No, I'm saying I'm bad at names. So I'll say anonymous difficulty.
I like that. So we did it. Yay!
Oh,
Can you say the name again?
I said anonymous difficulty.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You're better at names than you think.
we'll get working on it straight away, Lakshman.
Okay. Good. I wish we could. I wish we could. And now it is your turn, Sarah, and you are on another interaction.
Oh, right.
Well, since we don't all have paper and pen.
And we'll have to go for escape then. We've all been kidnapped by a psychopath and we're locked in a basement. Together, plan your escape. Each player add an element of the escape strategy. Right, so if we're locked in my basement, what's in my basement? There's lots and lots of DVDs in my basement. So I've got to have some way of making them come into the. Okay, so I will get a DVD of a movie where the police are surrounding a building and they're going, "Stop, police, you're surrounded," and I'll play that really loudly so that the psychopath thinks that the police are surrounding the building.
Wow, that is thing. Yeah, I love that. And then I would have us all start screaming, so then the person would think that the police are surrounding, and then we'll all be screaming too to scare him even more, him or her. Anyone else have an element to add? Yeah.
Then I'll fake an injury. So while he's trying to care for me to see if I'm okay, you guys can, start making the calls to 911 or something.
Well, I can help you with that. My daughter went to a horror makeup workshop at the weekend, so she's got
perfect
flaps of skin and stuff that you could stick on yourself.
Well, that's very brave of you, Cynthia. Thank you for that. We'll come back for you, I promise.
Okay, while Cynthia is pretending to be injured, I will look for something sharp to hit him on his head, the back of his head, that he would lose consciousness.
That would be great. That would be great. Then we'd have it all. You used to be so sad, you wouldn't be so right, and then yeah, okay. We all say because actually it usually is a he, unfortunately. No gender stuff here, but
okay.
It's inclusive.
I heard, Sarah, you mention about a lot of DVDs in the basement. I'll prefer to create different kind of those museums which used to have different mirrors, looking into which you would start seeing yourself in different form.
Yeah,
So
the shiny surfaces.
Yeah. I'll use the DVDs to form those mirror and place it all around the psychopath, so that whenever he looks into it, he feels it's somebody else, but he's looking at himself.
Hall of mirrors.
I'm trying to play with it more.
Very good.
seriously, I want to be with all you guys if this ever happens. Seriously. I think we get out. Wow, so much
They're
creativity.
all behaving so oddly that he starts being scared of us.
I think we could do it.
I think we could.
Seriously. Does anybody have any other elements to add? Okay. So now we have Cynthia's turn. Inclusion again. This never happens. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Go on again so we can do different categories, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. Can I? No, it has to go in order. All right. You'll have it. We'll make sure you get a turn.
Okay.
Okay. We did interactions. We're gonna keep going until we get to a category that we haven't been on. Okay. This is fantasy imagination. So Cynthia, you can start with this. And
Okay.
then question number 5.
Okay.
Some of this is more serious, some of it's fun. This is meant to be a more fun category.
Okay. If I could domesticate any wild animal to be a pet, which animal would I choose? Let me think about this one. I'm thinking of one that's easy to maintain and clean.
Yeah, we're practical. Okay.
Yeah. I'll say I'll domesticate like a spider, like a huge tarantula, just because they get rid of other insects. So I would choose a spider, make it nice and friendly, take the venom away, and then I could, make sure that it would take care of the other insects that try to get in the house.
Wow. Awesome.
A big spider. Yeah.
Wow. I never thought of that. I'm so unpractical. I would have thought of a Black Panther, or then I'd have to have a whole land to take care of it. So I don't know. I'll have to rethink my plan.
Right, cleaning after a Black Panther wouldn't be as fun.
We were talking about Dubai earlier. People carry big cats around in the back of their gold cars in Dubai. It's absolutely mad. Black panthers, leopards, all sorts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Really crazy. Really crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I guess domesticated, huh?
Well, how domesticated does a cheetah or a leopard ever really get? I don't know.
I don't know.
Wouldn't trust it.
Right? Like Tiger King or something.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
I'd have to go for a badger, because my daughter is doing a ceramics exam. Well, she's doing a ceramics course at the moment at school, and she's doing her projects on badgers. So it'd be really cool to have a badger around that would be domesticated enough to do posing, so that she could use it as a life model for her project.
Cynthia, do you know much about how badgers act? Are they hard to take care of?
Yeah, I should imagine they would be. They're big and fierce. They're really fierce.
Yeah. No.
Does anybody else want to weigh in, or should we go on?
I wanted to go for a line, but after the revealing comment of Cynthia, I won't go for it. I think I would go for a horse, maybe, because at least I can ride it and feel the breeze in my hair and things like that.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, Cynthia made us all rethink.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Saved us a lot of trouble. Does anybody else want to share, or should I move on to another category? Okay, so I want you to be able to see what all the different categories are. And now it's Norhan's turn and the world. So these are all questions about the world. And number 4, there you go.
Do you think men or women experience jealousy more intensely, and why? I think it's not something dependent on gender. I think it's dependent. It's an individual thing. It's about the person himself. I thought I would not experience jealousy, but I had this experience a couple of months ago. I can get so jealous. I didn't know that.
Wow.
But it depends on the person. I think not the gender.
It's a very difficult emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't know if you meant it. You get jealous for a partner or jealous in general, but what I understood it was about the partner thing.
So that's another thing about this game. Wherever the question takes you is just go there. There's no right or wrong. You just go wherever the question takes you. Yeah.
I'll jump in for the men. I think men experience jealousy more intensely. Like, for example, in my job, I work for a utility company and we have linemen and electricians, and I work in the substations, which is electricians, maintenance techs, but the men get a little jealous of the linemen, the people that climb the poles. Like if you look for an ad at Southern California Edison, you see ads of men climbing poles. So like they have this intense resentment towards them. Like even the VP like of our department's like, oh, linemen, or we exist too. Like they are so passionate about their beef against the other men in the field because they don't get the attention that they get. So it's kind of funny because I'm not in that world, but it's funny to see that hatred for people that they don't even know just because they get more attention.
That is funny.
Yeah. Yeah, big animosity between field personnel.
Wow. Interesting.
But I always say it's kind of more, I hate to say it, more exciting to see somebody climbing like a 10-foot pole than see somebody program something in a building. We have to be realistic. But
well,
yeah.
I guess they could switch careers and learn how to
I can't think of anything worse than having to climb a tall pole. God, I get dizzy standing on a thick carpet.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll weigh in. I mean, so it's interesting. I mean, I'm going to answer this question, and maybe after hearing everybody, I'm going to answer it differently, because very often I find that I change my thoughts or beliefs on things through hearing other people. I think we're all very capable of experiencing very intense jealousy, but I do think with socialization, for some reason, generally men, it's a go-to. It's more programmed. It's like ownership, and I'm talking about like relationships. And I'm not saying I'm right. Nobody's ever right with this. This is just free associating. I've been with my relationships were mostly with jealous men, very difficult. And I think it's, just because they're socialized that they might, own the woman more than women don't have quite that. But it's a very complex question. So that's just a small part of my share. Yeah.
So I do marking of A-level papers, and one of the ones I mark is psychology. And every year we get a question about jealousy, about sexual jealousy, because it's on the syllabus.
Yeah.
And it was interesting what you were saying about socialization, Leslie, because the sort of consensus within, it depends which school of psychology you're looking at, but a lot of the consensus is around the idea that it's innate in men, because it's a response to evolutionary pressures that men feel sexual jealousy, because obviously if they're cuckolded, they've lost that opportunity to reproduce because another man has reproduced with your woman, whereas women feel jealousy not so much around sort of sexual infidelity, but the possibility that infidelity brings with it of them being left without resources to raise the children that they've produced. So it's like different kinds of jealousy. It's jealousy for having lost love, or jealousy for having lost the opportunity to reproduce. And there seems to be a gender difference in that.
Very interesting.
But that's just according to evolutionary psychologists. Other psychologists would have different different explanations for that. But that's the one it's the one actually I tend to have when I'm like marking those papers. I tend to go, yeah, the evolutionary thing makes a lot of sense, because you see it in nature. You see the way that animals behave when there are when another male comes into the area, they behave in the same way. So it feels logical.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Does the only gentleman here want to weigh in on this?
I was about to say the same thing in a different aspect. I was about to say that men and women both do feel extreme jealousy. They are intense when they are jealous, but the question is not whether they're intense or not. The question is, what is it that they become jealous with? Because of it, they have the intensity. I'll bring it in this perspective of power equation and the social emotional status equation, and it may vary in either circumstances, but the very reason men and women experience intense jealousy could be one of these two end of the day. And maybe the more I think, eventually everything boils down to the insecurity owing to the power imbalance, or insecurity owing to the social emotional imbalance that gets created.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, jealousy is a very powerful, can be incredibly destructive. I think we all, like other things, need to actually speak on that much more, because that has a huge impact, especially, younger people in relationships, right? Right, and how to handle that. I'm a therapist, and I have patients who grew up in really tough neighborhoods, and they're scared of their jealousy because they're taught, treat the woman badly, she better not talk to anybody else, all this kind of stuff, and it becomes part of them, and they want to change it, and they want different kind of relationships, and it's really hard to change. It's really interesting. Yeah. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this? Anna?
Yeah, I think maybe men tend to have more intense emotions about it because there's usually more pressure on them to achieve a certain accomplishment or status, etc. And building up on what you said just now, I think maybe if there was some sort of education on emotional self-regulation in schools, or I don't know, anything that would provide some sort of kind of grounding in how to manage your emotions, that would be probably very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly having for young men, having an older man just really talk to them. Somebody told me their father did that, and he said he saw his son being very jealous and possessive, and he said, "Son, you don't own this woman. She can talk to who she wants to. And that really changed everything, but that's a rare thing that somebody has that opportunity. Yeah. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this? So Norhan, I hope your partner gives you less reason for jealousy. Because it's
I hope the next one does, because I love the last one.
Oh, okay. It's a painful feeling, right?
It's good. I don't think it's now it's good because I'm done with it. Yeah, it was during the thing that was happening. Yeah, it was painful.
Well, congratulations on not having that anymore.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now we have Norhan. We've got a couple more categories we haven't gotten to, so we'll try to get to them. And this is one of them. This is personal. So question.
Okay, I will just have to, I will answer this and then I will have to go.
Okay.
Okay. What do you look for in a friend? Okay. I think general things like trust, mutual respect. I had too many disappointments in my life, and I'm in a point that I don't want to get disappointed again. I know you can never guarantee this, but I'm trying. I'm trying to not give my whole trust for a person before knowing him or her well. So I think the two main things are respect and trust.
And they can be hard to come by, right? Yeah. I'll go. I guess, like you feel drawn to somebody, you have things, things to talk about, you feel energized by somebody, whatever. But then, somebody's got music or something. Thank you. So then friendships are complicated, right? I think, and can be difficult, but I'll just, not to make it too complicated. There just have to be things in the relationship that add to my life and don't detract from it. That's what I look for, somebody who's going to add something to my life. Who else wants to speak on this?
I think I'm going to be a bit less deep than that. I've shared interests. I look for somebody that I can do stuff with that I enjoy doing.
Oh,
yeah, I'll add to that. I always say my friends all love trash TV, like they love reality shows or common things that I know that, or if I wear something like my friend would recognize, oh, that's that jacket, or a common things in common. Yes.
Anna or Laxman?
Loyalty.
Yeah. Is that easy to find?
Nope.
What did Anna say? I could not hear that.
She said loyalty, and I said, is that easy to find? And she said, nope. Yep. Yeah, it is an important thing. It is hard to find. Sarah, do you want to weigh in on that?
I was the one that said things in common.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want somebody to play Dungeons and Dragons with.
I'm sorry. Anybody else want to weigh in? Lexman, what do you look for?
Okay, for me, it's the space which makes it the understanding space, I would say.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so I want to show you guys, I have a site of free mini games, and I want to show that to you because you can just use that. This has a free 1-week trial and then there's a fee, but I want to show you the site of free games. But before I leave here, does anybody have any comments or questions or anything about this game?
Other than I really enjoyed it. It's a really enjoyable experience. It is amazing how easy. I mean, maybe that's a function of sort of being online. I don't know, how easy it is to open up.
It's
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
I was going to agree. Like, you can see that it's really easy to get comfortable. The questions are really engaging.
Thank you. Yeah, with the board game, it's even more so because people are throwing their coins at each other, which I would have been for so many things that people said. And it's just, it makes it even more interactive, and you're seeing people's facial expressions. So, yeah, I mean, it just creates a space for that. So that's why, diversity and inclusion, people go really hard on what diversity and inclusion and power, and those things are important to talk about. But we also, I believe, which is why I do this work, we need to just listen to each other about so many different topics, and where we all have the human experience. We're all experiencing so much in our lives that we can share our wisdom and our experiences about. And then we just, as I said in the beginning, the walls start coming down between us. So I think it does a lot of the work in a way that's indirect. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Like at my job, we used to open meetings with like a safety question where anybody can join in on a safety moment. And then we started thinking, what if we did something like a diversity and inclusion moment? Like, having questions that people can share something about themselves. And the questions were not this deep or as enlightening, but I think this is what we need to be doing, something like this.
So much diversity and inclusion training is just about compliance, though, isn't it? It's about covering your ass. And that's not really what diversity and inclusion is about. That's just compliance. And it's not really helping anybody. Whereas something,
and so
like
people see it that way too, is just
Yeah.
compliance.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think, this time in history where there is so much chaos, it is a time where we can start breaking down some of these walls and, be in our humanity with each other. And if we don't, where we're going, right? I mean,
Yeah. Quite.
So ridiculous already. Well, there's real history, and that's real, and that needs to be dealt with. But, yeah. Okay, so I want to share with you, and so the website, I'll share that with you later. KeepItRealGame.com is the website for this game, where you can see a lot more. Mostly the board game stuff is on there because the virtual game is new. So here it's healgames.love is how you can get to this. Healgames.love, and there's a whole bunch of different mini games here. So there's some questions in the Keep It Real game, but there's also justice and healthcare workers, couples, veteran reintegration. So feel free to just go on here and use any of these. The one that I use the most is for, a lot of people are grieving losses, have lost people during the pandemic, or even if you've lost somebody 40 years ago. There's a lot that you may never have spoken about. So here's the instructions, and then I'm just going to show you the game. It's not as formalized as the Keep It Real game that I just showed you. So the way you would play it here, if you want, if you know anybody who's grieving the loss of somebody, you or yourself you can just get on with them, and everybody can just choose questions that they want to discuss, or as a facilitator, you can just choose questions, and the same thing, everybody will answer the same question around the circle. And it just helps you to go deep into how that person impacted your life, just more about them, memories. People can give guidance on how to deal with certain aspects of the loss. And it just gets into, more complicated areas that you might be dealing with. Then you can go to quotes, and you can just read through and, just read them, or talk about the quote, or just read it. And so, we're not going to play this now, but I want you to know about this because obviously a lot of people have lost people. Probably in the next month or two, and I'll let, I'd love any of you to reach out to me. I'm going to give you my contact, but I'll also let Sarah know when I'm going to make this a game like the Keep It Real game that's more formalized, so it flows easier. This one.
Do you want to share the website address in the chat.
Yes.
If you put anything in the chat that you want me to put into the article where I'm going to share the video, that would be brilliant, and then I can make sure that sort of frames the video.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because I mean, it's surprising to me that nobody's created resources that make it easy for people to talk about a loss, since it's such a hard thing to talk about. Do you think something any of you would use?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And another idea is coming to me now, because I've recently got involved with a chap called Nick Kellett, who's launching a card deck app within the next month or so, and I can't help thinking that those questions they'd make brilliant cards.
Yeah, I'm going to also do a physical card deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'll take this conversation offline, but I'll talk to you about Deckable. It might be something that's interesting for you.
Okay, that would
Leslie, is the board game on there as well to order? The board game version?
So let me actually pull back up. Of the Lost game or of the Keep It Real game?
Keep it real.
Yeah, give you all my contact information. Yeah, so there's my phone number, the website. The virtual game, I think I have priced too high. It's new. The board game is $64.99. The virtual game I put at $125. I think that might be too high. What do you guys think?
Is it like, for example, if you bought it for like your department, could it be played multiple times by different people?
Endlessly. You could play it every day.
And I think that's a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah. $100, $125 maybe. Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. Yeah, no, you can play. It's yours. You have your own license to it. You can log on to it anytime.
Right.
But you don't want more than 7 people at a game, because as we saw, you don't want to have to wait too long for your turn, and it just keeps the conversation moving. So does everybody have this information?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Has anybody been doing inclusion work in your organizations? I mean, Cynthia, you mentioned having the question. Has anybody been doing any inclusion work that you feel anything about?
Not really with these kind of games. We've done like games to bring connection or bring people together, like, those kind of things. But I think this is really great to go deeper past the surface.
Are you guys remote right now, Cynthia? Are you?
Well, our organization is humongous, but for the field personnel, they're still in the field, but the employees are mostly all hybrid, where they would come in once a week. But that just stopped because COVID numbers rose again in California. But we were coming in once a week. Yeah.
So just let me know, let you know for the future, if people are coming back in. The board game, I've done it with all construction workers, with all different kinds of professions, and people really like it. I mean, at first they're like, huh, like what? But
yeah, this is really great. I'd love to. I'm going to demo it. I'm going to, share it with my ethics and compliance organization and see what they think. I think it would be great.
Laxman has to leave. Bye, Laxman. It was so great to have you here. Thank you. Reach out.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'll reach out.
Please. Thank you, Cynthia. And I also can send you, if you want to order any facilitation PowerPoint, that will give you guidelines on how to facilitate.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, because then you can just, I designed everything so anybody can facilitate them, but this will just help you, you can even share it with other people who will want to run the games. It just makes it real easy to just follow some guidelines for facilitation as well as the ground rules.
Because like I'm in certain, like they have BRG groups, like business resource groups. So I'm in like one for women, I'm in one for African American employees. So like I could use this, you know, in those groups as well. So that would be really helpful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, just feel free to reach out to me, call me, email me, you know.
Yeah, I'll message you. I just got your LinkedIn, so I will definitely contact you via there. And I have your email now.
Wonderful. Wonderful. There's 4 chats. Let me see if I need to. Laxman said it was a pleasure to play this game with y'all. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody.
You look forward to connecting.
Yes, we will chat.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye, Cynthia.
So much for being here. Really appreciate it. Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Hey, good. Reach out if you have anything you need or questions, okay?
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much. It was really fun.
It's great. Thank you so much for being here. Take good care, Sarah. Have a wonderful evening. It was so nice to spend time.
Yes, absolutely.